follow-up care for stem cell therapy. This is going to give you everything you need to know about foods that you want to eat, how your gut is impacted by stem cells, and then I'm also going to show you why we have you do acupuncture. So a lot of people are like, why am I getting acupuncture? I just came in for the stem cells. Well, there's going to be some science behind this that I think will be very intriguing. So feel free to ask questions, and we appreciate those. For those of you who are watching this video, feel free to send us an email or call us. You guys know our number. But first of all, let's jump into some of the research behind stem cells. I mean, stem cell therapy right now is kind of in its infancy, but we're starting to see this like exponential rise in the amount of studies and publications behind it. If you look from 1996, when a lot of the stem cell therapy first started being researched, to 2012 right now, I mean, that number was about 500 studies were produced in 1996. Now in 2012, we're seeing about 20,000. Fast forward to 2016, that number is close to 50,000. So the amount of research that's coming in is just substantial. And the biggest thing that I see that's missing in the research is people are not looking at stem cell therapy as a holistic therapy. And, you know, like I talked to you, Esther, is we want to treat the whole body. You know, yes, we're interested in your knees doing as well as they can, but if we leave out the diet, the nutrition, if we don't do the follow-up care, if you're not exercising, moving your body, then the stem cells aren't going to have as good of an outcome. So in order to increase your outcomes, we want to make sure that you're doing all these things. So let's jump into this. First thing, if you look at what a stem cell is, the stem cells do depend on nutrition. And this has been clinically documented, but the balance between stem cell self-renewal and differentiation is a key determinant of tissue homeostasis and allows stem cells to dynamically remodel tissues in response to turnover, damage, and disease. So if you need your tissues remodeled, you know, like many of you have cartilage degeneration, or you know, like you, Annie, you had the meniscal injury and the cartilage was starting to wear down. All those things, they depend on nutrition. So we can't just inject stem cells. They'll grow for a while, but to get the full 250-day differentiation cycle, you want to be adding in the foods. So some of the interesting things, stem cells do need to be nourished. Hopefully you guys gather that. Some of the research shows we want you to reduce or cut out sugar consumption, avoid moldy foods or environments, even moldy environments. So if you go home and you can smell mold in your bathroom, for example, get that checked out, because the ochratoxins and the mycotoxins in the mold can have a definite impact on your stem cells. I know it sounds funny and you think, oh, the environment won't affect me, but we found that the gamma rays from light, so try to avoid getting x-rays if possible until 6 months after, but even some of the lights you're sitting under, the computer screen, all those things can affect your stem cell proliferation. Drink plenty of water, don't smoke, get more exercise. Now a lot of you are wondering, well, how much exercise can I get right now? Well, the first couple of weeks you want to take it easy. You don't want to push yourself in a way that would you know, cause any extra inflammation, but we don't want you sedentary either. You know, swimming is a great exercise. Riding a bike, if you've had your knees done, that's another great exercise. You know, when I got my shoulder injected, you know, this happened almost 4.5 years ago, but you know, I just started by doing very light push-ups, and if I felt any pain, you know, after about a month I started doing push-ups, and I could get to 3 push-ups and then the pain would come back and I always would stop. And then I'd give myself a few days of recovery, then I could do 4 push-ups and then I'd stop. So it really, you know, depending on what joint is bothering you, don't push yourself beyond pain. Once you feel pain, you know you've gone too far. So stretching is really good. If you're into yoga, yoga can be very helpful, but make sure you're not putting excess pressure on those joints. A lot of you think you're stretching your muscle when you're actually stretching your ligaments. I'm one of the least flexible guys on the planet, and so I can feel it when I need to bend my knees instead of keeping them straight in down dog or some of the other poses. So watch that, make sure that you're stretching the muscle belly, not the joint itself. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, when I go swimming sometimes at night, they have all these chemicals that they're cleaning the floor with.
The chemicals they're cleaning the floor with, yeah.
And so if I'm stepping on that, is that going to affect the stem cells?
You know, if we're all going to be exposed to a certain amount of chemicals, and I wouldn't get too worried about it, honestly. Of course, get out of there as quickly as you can, but it's not going to be to the point where it would really be a detriment to the stem cells. One of the things that we did is instead of using stem cells from your own body, from your adipose tissue or bone marrow, one of the things we did is we actually used it from a source that's never been exposed to the outside world. And so those stem cells are still very robust and young, so that they're not going to be as affected by the environmental factors as your own stem cells would be. They haven't been genetically imprinted yet with all those, the exposomal factors is what it's called. Um, Remember this key component, the poorer your diet is, the less healthy will be your stem cells and the less proliferation. So proliferation essentially means that when one cell gets injected, let's say you put one stem cell in your body, that's not very much, but that one stem cell will differentiate and it will create two stem cells. So one becomes a daughter cell, and then two becomes three, and then another stem cell goes in and it actually creates whatever tissue's been damaged in your body, and that's called proliferation. So your stem cells, let's say we put, approximately, if you're getting the stem cell injections, we're averaging around 2 million stem cells per unit. And so what will happen is that 2 million, about 24 to 28 days later, that 2 million will differentiate and it will already be 4 million. 4 million a day later will become 8 million. 8 million a day later will become 16 million. 16 million a day later will become what? 32 million for you mathematicians out there. 32 million becomes 64. 64 becomes 128, and so on and so forth. And this is called exponential growth. And that's where we look at it. We say, yeah, maybe we could have put more stem cells in your body if we extracted it from your adipose tissue, but not very many of those cells would actually differentiate for very long. It would last maybe 30 days, but it wouldn't, you get some outcome that works great, but not as good as, if you have a 250-day life cycle. So these cells are young, they're robust, and it's exponentially growing. If you have a poor diet, then, they can only differentiate for so long, and then they kind of stop. And so we want them to differentiate for a very long time, or as long as needed. Some of the things that we found is nutrients that have been studied. Nutrients have been found to be the best way to avoid that inflammation and to create a better anti-inflammatory environment. They help stem cells do their job in restoring blood flow to the limbs. So there's actually proteins in the amniotic fluid, and these proteins promote angiogenesis. And angiogenesis, it basically just means it's bringing new blood supply to that particular area that's been damaged. Proteins, so you want to make sure we recommend do collagen protein. Collagen and colostrum are two proteins that don't agitate your intestinal lining. Collagen, we use it from grass-fed cows. Collagen's made from the ligaments, typically, the ligaments and joint structure. We get it from cows primarily. The colostrum, of course, is it comes from milk of pregnant cows. And the colostrum actually has all the amino acids, the complete chain that's not going to cause inflammation in your body. So those are some great things you can do. So the polyphenols, one of the areas you can get polyphenols is the green tea. You can also get it from tryptophan, so foods that have lots of tryptophan in it. Of course, we all think of turkey because what do we do after Thanksgiving? We sleep. And so turkey is not necessarily the best source. The best source of tryptophan is avocados. Yeah. We love avocados. So we want you to eat, ideally in the morning, you'll eat 50 grams of fat. And so that could be an avocado has about 21 grams of fat. And then for those of you who are tea or coffee drinkers, make sure that you're putting some coconut oil and some butter in your tea or coffee. And that will actually help get some nice stabilizing fats in there. The caffeine won't stimulate your adrenals, so it won't have as adverse of reactions as you typically would get from that. Another good source, like for breakfast almost every day, I have an avocado. I have a bed of some type of leafy greens. I'll cook up some kale, some chard. But this morning I had arugula. I put an avocado on there. I put some sea salt on it, and then I put about a cup of sauerkraut. I love sauerkraut. You don't have to do a cup. That's a lot, but I was hungry. I worked out hard, so whatever you want to do, but make sure in the mornings you're not eating the sugar. You're not just doing cold cereal. Is like one of the worst things you can eat. If you don't believe me on cold cereal, all you have to do is go buy a box of cereal like Fruit Loops or Trix or something, and crush it up with a spoon, get it all powdery, and then put a magnet over it, and you'll see that all the fortification that happens in food, you're ingesting that, and those heavy metals can actually really cause a lot of inflammation in your body. So, a nice little trick you can try there. Stem cell cycle. Cells and tissues become aged, injured, diseased, or simply worn out. Then what happens is your tissue sends out a message, an SOS, please help. And then what happens is your body is designed to have stem cells that actually mobilize themselves into the areas that the body's calling for help in, whether that's a knee joint, an ankle joint, a nerve, your brain, your liver. And then what happens is that SOS signal reaches the bone marrow. Or in many cases, we've actually found that stem cells are stored all around your organs, and I'll get into this in a minute, in your Bowman ducts. And then those stem cells are released. Stem cells travel to the tissue in need through the blood or through the Bowman ducts, the acupuncture meridians. And then the stem cells leave the blood and migrate into the tissue, and then they start replicating many times to regrow new tissue. Cells of the tissue are replaced with fresh, young, healthy tissue cells. And so we'll get into this cycle, but this is essentially how our body heals itself. So if you want ever never-ending healing, then we need massive quantities of stem cells. It's a very beautiful process. Some of the things that will deplete this whole cycle of stem cell regeneration and proliferation, biggest thing is let's talk about dairy for a second. So dairy, there's two proteins in dairy. Do you guys know what they are?
Casein and whey.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was it?